Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 2, part 3. Similar to yesterday, I will do a Q&A, a very fast review. I'm actually going to review 2 days worth of seminars. I didn't really start doing this 40-day challenge until the second day. But I will review what we went over in terms of digestion, and then yesterday what we did with the gut microbiome, and today the new topic will be mitochondrial dysfunction and how to optimize mitochondria. Why do they matter? Because that amounts to over 90% of the body's energy. It's a good idea to have all of your organs firing on all cylinders in order to optimize your immune system. Remember, the immune system is fundamentally mysterious. We know certain things about the immune system, but much of it we don't know for sure. Some of you are seeing that many of these NBA stars are testing positive with this virus and have absolutely no symptoms. They had no idea that they were walking around with it. That's what I mean by non-responders. You'll notice that many top athletes will not have this virus and not even know it. So I'm gonna continue to follow that because the Lakers will be tested today, and I predict that many of them will be positive too. So remember my whole point from that very first 30-minute video from a couple of days ago, which I'm very grateful to see has over 500 views. My whole point is we're running a race. We're running a marathon. That's why I'm calling this a 40-day marathon. I want you to finish in the top 10%, which means I want you to be as close to a non-responder as possible. In order to do that, I've committed to doing 40 days of 3 videos. And in each video, we're going to do 3 different things. We're going to start off with some meditation and breath work and some contemplation. And I'll show you how that information in that meditation work maps onto the things that we do both in training and in these seminars. It's very sneaky. It's very interesting. But how you use your attention matters, and the things that you understand about the body matters. So top 10% is my goal for you guys. And if you're allowing me to coach you, I am truly, truly grateful. So Q&A. Yesterday, I spoke a little bit about zinc, and then I talked a little bit about vitamin C, and the reason that vitamin C, it's vitamin C, it's important for your immune system. As I mentioned in the first video, I explained a little bit all of the things that are important for immune system that we know are important for immune system. But vitamin C doesn't have true antiviral properties unless you're basically using an IV. And I said yesterday, boy, I would love to see that being tested. And it turns out it is being tested. Jordan heard the video yesterday and sent me some research on vitamin C IV, and I will include that research in the newsletter. Very cool stuff, but it turns out that it is having an interesting effect. Again, that is IV infused vitamin C. You cannot take enough orally. You'll just keep peeing it out. And this is a separate conversation. It's the same conversation I had about zinc. Okay, if you taking, yes, there is a medication that is zinc based that is shown to be strongly antiviral, but it's a medication, and the way that medication works is that the zinc is being escorted into the cell and builds up the cell's zinc stores, and that is what makes it strongly antiviral. You cannot do that by just taking more zinc, but you want to make sure that you're not zinc deficient. That does not mean take a whole bunch of zinc all day. Okay, we already talked about that. I'm not going into it, all right? Listen to the videos and you'll get it. All right, next question I had yesterday had to do with breathing, and this was actually in the video. So breathing, when I do the breath work, the deep breath work, it's a version of Wim Hof. Wim Hof method is, you're taking these deep breaths in, you exhale, deep breaths in, you exhale, and you hold your breath, and you breathe in again, hold your breath for about 10 seconds, let go, and you do it again, and then you go into a cold shower. If you want more specifics, watch the meditation videos. But it is a little different than Wim Hof in that I'm making you breathe through your nose, exhale through your mouth, and the focus is diaphragmatic breathing. Wim Hof doesn't care if you're breathing a whole bunch with your thoracic cavity. Remember that these muscles way up here are accessory breathing muscles, meaning they should come on board to be accessory to the diaphragm. The diaphragm should move first. That should fill first, then this muscle. Excuse me, then the thoracic cavity. Most people breathe up here in the thoracic cavity first, and that's dysfunctional. It's called reverse breathing, and it leads to a whole bunch of other issues. I will do an entire video on breathing alone, but when you see the cascade of events that comes when you preferentially breathe into your thoracic cavity, you will be shocked. So we want to breathe into the abdomen and do the breathing as RX'd in that video. And many of you have already commented, I cannot believe how much better I feel after just 5 minutes of doing that type of breathing. To go along with that, please note that today I started to do that meditation a little differently. I added in a lot of contemplation work. So I'm using my book, Chasing 22, which is available on Amazon. It's a book about free will. It's really a book, it's not so much, it's a philosophical book, but it's really a book on nutrition and wellness and well-being. And it's a very practical guide into things that you need to do in order to understand what's happening here and in your body. But I decided that I'm going to use that time in meditation to just drop little by little knowledge from that book for you to think about while you meditate. It will be woven in, and it will help the meditative process. You'll actually recognize that, oh, there's actually nothing wrong with you, right? This is something that the mind normally does, and hopefully create a space for you to be less critical of yourself, both in your mind and in your body, and just pay attention to the things that actually matter. So if you haven't listened to that yet, I encourage that you do. But please listen to the whole thing. You'll notice in the beginning I say certain things, and you're not going to get out of your mind that you disagree with me. I know you're going to disagree with me. Please let me finish my point over the course of the meditation. I'm going somewhere with it. By the time you're done, I will have made my point, right? So it's helpful to do it and listen all the way through, not get caught up in certain ideas that you think you already have formulated, and just allow the information to enter before you make an opinion. So let's get into some mitochondria. Let's get into a little bit of review. So we reviewed just yesterday what we talked about with digestion. Remember, how you prepare your food matters. Chewing your food, when you swallow your food, making sure your stomach acid is strong and supported, because most people's are not, especially as you get older. When that bolus of food moves through from your stomach into your duodenum, making sure that your liver and pancreas are firing correctly, because most people right now have some version of fatty liver disease, which means that you also have a fatty pancreas. And those things do things like make digestive enzymes and bile to help emulsify fats, and all of the proteins and carbs that you eat have certain enzymes that are important. These are things that we don't want to mess with. But when we get unhealthy, we are messing with these things, and it does affect our digestion. And then yesterday we talked about what happens downstream in the gut and the gut microbiome. And I didn't go into too much detail, but I did say, make sure that you avoid sugars, make sure you vary your fibers, make sure that you understand this gut-brain connection. And the gut, how does the gut break down? The gut breaks down over time. How? Well, some of it has to do with what I alluded to yesterday about how we eat and what we eat, but some of it is also lots and lots of antibiotics over time, or if you abused certain things over time, like certain diuretics or laxatives and things of this nature. There are things that really bother the gut. And so basically at the end of the day, what you're putting in your mouth can disturb the gut. There are also things, I'm not going to get into this here, but in seminars I talk about, Roundup and glyphosate and what that does in the body, and how it mimics glycine in the body, and how that's a problem and why that's a problem. It's a big downstream effect, but Roundup is in a whole bunch of things, along with other chemicals and additives. This is a big reason why I've been a proponent of organic foods for not a year, not 2 years, way before Wegmans even had an organic aisle. You guys heard me talking about organic foods back in 2006, 2007, in that time frame. And so We are always trying to stay ahead of the curve, guys, getting you the most relevant information ASAP before it's too late. And that's what the goal of these videos right now. All right, so now let's move on to mitochondrial health. I alluded to it a little bit in the past videos. I'm gonna make it real simple, right? So now you can hear this and then turn it off, or you can understand the whys and the whats. So here it is. You wanna optimize your mitochondria. I already told you why they're important. Here you go. You need to eat less, but notice that it says how matters. You need to eat less, you need to move more, you need to breathe and de-stress. You need to sleep through all 5 stages, and you need to do it approximately 5 times a night. You need to get cold exposure. Now, you don't need to, but cold exposure is a very interesting way to bolster mitochondrial health, and I'll explain why and how. Certain supplements that I'll talk about that have been shown to be extremely beneficial, not just for mitochondrial health, but for heart health as well. Remember, where are most of the mitochondria? A lot of them, they're in the most active organs. Is your heart pretty active all day long? Come on now, guys. Come on now, let's get real. Let's get real. We're talking about mitochondrial health. We're talking about all this stuff. At the end of the day, we're really talking about heart health. We're really talking about making your heart strong. I'm being obnoxious now. Okay. Hydration, and then avoid bad foods and bad fats. I'm going to talk about what I mean by bad foods and especially bad fats, because some of that stuff you're not going to be thinking of specifically. So, first of all, eat less. What do we mean? Well, let me give you a very cool understanding of a study that was done on people that needed to lose at least 100 pounds. Now, some of this topic is going to spill over into another topic I'm going to do later, which will be on cellular autophagy. But it does have something to do here with mitochondrial health for sure. So what we know is when we eat less, that's good for mitochondrial health, meaning that you're not constantly backing up what's really called the electron transport chain. And I wasn't going to get into it here, but maybe I can make it very simple. So if we think about if each of these are, by the way, this is not my analogy. This is an analogy that I heard from Dr. Lee No. So if you want to read his book, which is very specific on mitochondria, it's only about that thick. But if you use this analogy, I love it. If you think of it as train station stops, if you think about each of these are a train station stop, and this is called the electron transport chain, and this is what's going on within mitochondria. These junctions here, okay, they're called complexes. Different things happen along the way, and toward the end, what you actually get is water. All right. So at the end, you're creating water back into the body. But what happens here in these complexes is that we get backed up. We get a backup. And I said yesterday that the oxidative stress that occurs along this chain, this electron transport chain, this backup that causes the oxidative stress, is the current theory of aging. So in general, we used to have this general theory of oxidative stress in the body, but what we're seeing more and more now is that it's actually very, very specific to what's happening here in mitochondria. And it's happening more specifically right along these complexes that get backed up with what? Just in general, too much food. Remember, food, like everything, is made of electrons. So your body eventually breaks things down into electrons, and they have to be processed by your body, and that's being done in the mitochondria. So when you're having too much food all of the time, this stuff just gets blocked up. There's only one train that's allowed in each station at the time. So when we're trying to put more than one train into a train station, well, that's not very good for the passengers. It's not very good for what's going on there. So it needs to slow down and make its natural transition. But when it gets backed up, that's where you get that oxidative stress. That's where we see a lot of inflammation. That's where we see all of the theories of disease and aging that are emerging. And we're really beginning to dial in and say, oh, wait a minute, it's not just oxidative stress, it's oxidative stress in this very particular area. So when we say eat less, what do we mean? Well, let me go back to this research on people who needed to lose at least 100 pounds. And they took two groups. One group was fed less calories throughout the day. So without getting into, I don't want to get into the whole is a calorie thing. This can take too much time. But at the end of the day, 3,500 calories really is a pound. But it does, but your body, how your body metabolizes that 3,500 calories matters. So just very quickly, if I gave you 3,500 calories worth of high fructose corn syrup and it was above and beyond what you normally took in during a day, and I laid you down, and after your body did all of its metabolic processes, you took in 3,500 calories more than your body processed, you will gain a pound. Okay, and that goes for anything. But the difference is I could give you 7,000 calories worth of certain proteins and fats, which thermogenically break down way more inefficiently, meaning your body burns way more calories breaking that stuff down, right? Which is why you need 7,000 calories in order to gain just 1 pound, 3,500 calories, where the straight high fructose corn syrup, which is just sugar, will affect your body very differently in the liver and how even fat is stored on the body. Again, big topic. I'm just making a point that they gave people 3,500 more calories. They gave people less calories than they were normally consuming, and gradually throughout the day. 3,500 calories is a pound, so over the course of time, they lost 100 pounds. The other group, they only fed them, they did a certain strategy of what's called time-restricted feeding. They did a certain form of fasting, different strategies there. But basically, they're allowing them to fast much, much longer. Again, I promise I will go into this in a different seminar. What they noticed about the people that they fed slowly and over time, and remember their metabolism gradually slows and all these things, they noticed what most people that have 100 pounds to lose notice. They had a lot of extra skin. But the people that did the time-restricted feeding, they noticed that their skin quality was significantly better. And the reason why that has to do more with cellular autophagy, which you're going to have to tune into another video to learn about that. But what I am saying is that this strategy is also extremely effective for mitochondrial health. Why? Because of what we're talking about here, right? What we're talking about here, we don't want to back up that electron transport chain. We want the body to allow it enough time to get everything all the way out and all the way through, so that this railroad is clear. It makes sense? So that's one way to really optimize mitochondrial health, and probably the most important way, which is, guys, we just need to eat less, and how we do it can matter a lot when we get into deeper stuff later on when we talk about cellular autophagy. Moving more really matters. This is a no-brainer. We could go into all of the science and why this matters, but I think you just get it, right? I mean, it's very hard for anybody to come up with a reason to argue with me. Well, why do we need to move more? Moving more is one of the most important things to bolster mitochondrial health, because what you're doing is you're asking the body to make more young mitochondria and get rid of the old ones, okay? Which is a good thing, and it actually does do that via exercise and movement. Breathe and de-stress. Long story short, you do my meditations in the morning. That's what I'm talking about. If you do the meditations in the morning, which will take about 25 minutes, do it in front of the red light for all the reasons that I'm sure you've already researched on your own, the far and near infrared, just killing two birds with one stone. That's what I'm talking about, right? This, just allowing yourself time to practice breathing. Does breathing matter? Hell yes. Like I said, we're already going to do a whole nother seminar just on breathing. But if you want to maximize your mitochondrial health and get your stress down, activate that parasympathetic nervous system, because the vagal nerve, that vagus nerve, really is a thing, and it really is in charge of your parasympathetic nervous system. It really is your rest and digest system. Rest and digest. What do most people have trouble with in this society? Sleep and digestion. It is part of your nervous system. And one way that we can get it to work better is through increasing vagal tone by breathing and meditating. It is simple hack, but you got to put in time, got to put in the work. Nothing comes easy. There's no free lunches, everybody. There's not a pill to swallow for that. Unfortunately, there's no pill to swallow, but we will talk about some pills to swallow that might help you out. Next, you got to sleep. So what did I just say? Rest and digest. How can we sleep better? Well, we'll do a whole entire seminar on sleep, but we've got to make sure that we're getting through all 5 sleep cycles. We got to make sure that we're getting through it about 5 times a night. People ask about, is it okay to nap during the day? Yeah, but it's a good idea to make sure that you allot yourself about 90 minutes to nap so that you can get a full sleep cycle in. Again, I'm going to do a whole thing on sleep, so I don't want to go on a tangent here. But if you want to sleep better, you can start by breathing better. You can start by meditating. You can start by experimenting with turning the lights down in your house at night, because when a lot of light gets into your eyes, it turns melatonin into serotonin. Melatonin into serotonin. Yes, your body really makes melatonin, everybody. It makes it when it gets dark. So if you're walking around with all the lights on and you're in your iPad and you're in your phone and you're putting all that light into your eye, and it's blue light, so it's highly concentrated light, you're exciting your eyeballs. And guess what? That's converted right in your eyes. That melatonin to serotonin is converted right in your eyes. And you're basically telling your body, hey, it's high noon, I'm wide awake. Not a good idea to excite your brain when you're trying to go to sleep. Cold exposure. Many of you know that I go to the banya. I go into a room that's 212 to 220 degrees sometimes, and I sit there for a while to get what's called a hormetic response. And yes, we will do a whole seminar on the hormetic response. I've already done all of these seminars, by the way, but for those of you watching at home, we will talk about what is hormesis and why do things like heat shock proteins matter. What does it do for your immune system? What does it do? What do we know it does? What does it do for longevity? Yeah, we're going to get into all that great stuff. But then specifically, cold exposure for mitochondria, we know is happening. It's building, many of you have heard this or starting to hear it, it's called brown fat. Why is the fat brown? Because your body, when exposed to the cold, and the colder the better, the longer duration the better. What I mean by that is, if you're a healthy person, and you gradually build your endurance in the cold. So that doesn't mean if you're unhealthy and if you're already sniffling and sneezing and then I dump you into, ice cold water for 3 minutes, that's unwise. It would be unwise for all the reasons that we've talked about in the past. This is about building slowly over time. Cold exposure is something to build slowly over time. But at the Banya, they do have a cold plunge where you can go into and build your time in the cold plunge. And what happens there is your body starts to adapt, again, hormetically, to the cold by putting more mitochondria in fat, and their body stays warm through what's called mitochondrial uncoupling. This is why babies are born with so much brown fat on their body. Then over time, that brown fat goes away as they get older. But obviously, babies are born naked, and you don't want babies to be cold evolutionarily. Mother Nature knew what she was doing. But we now know that we can rebuild that brown fat, and it happens through cold exposure, and you stay warm via mitochondrial uncoupling. And the benefits there are tremendous, not just in the benefits of having more young mitochondria in your body for energy, but also we know that the cold exposure does a lot of things for your brain. And when we get into hormesis, I will talk more about heat and heat shock proteins, which actually ironically both work in the cold and the heat, but the different neural benefits of heat and cold. Supplements. I'm gonna say it real quick. PQQ. If for heart health, so PQQ and ubiquinol are often sold together. You can get PQQ in dark chocolate. There's lots of ways to get this into your diet, but if you have any type of underlying heart condition, and certainly if you're on a statin, you should be taking ubiquinol. Why? Because in this electron transport chain, we know that ubiquinol is being stolen out of here. So you may hear ubiquinol, you may hear CoQ10. Ubiquinol is just a reduced form of CoQ10, but it's being stolen out of this transport chain when you are on a statin. Look it up yourself. It's a well-known fact. Most doctors in the know are telling you to supplement with ubiquinol or CoQ10 along with your statin. If not, text me and I will send you a plethora of research that shows that that's exactly what's happening here. Old news. But PQQ, ubiquinol, as well as D-ribose. People that have underlying heart conditions should consider just taking 5 grams of D-ribose in their water bottle, drinking it as they exercise. Long story short, we know that people that have an acute heart attack or a condition, we know that the body rips through ribose really, really fast. Dr. Lino talks about this in his book, In More Abundance, but he predicts that one of the things that's going to happen as protocol for people coming into the hospital with a heart attack, that in the IV they give them will be some number of grams of D-ribose, but he recommends between 5 and 15 grams in a water bottle to drink either throughout the day or just as you exercise. But just having that extra D-ribose seems to be very protective of the heart. Again, I just gave you very short cliff notes there, but you can buy Dr. Lino's book and check it out for yourself. Obviously, stay hydrated. Staying hydrated is so important for so many reasons. That doesn't mean to drink 5 gallons of water, everybody. But, drinking about, if you're a 200-pound person, drinking close to a gallon, which is 128 ounces a day, is probably, about right. Meaning that you're drinking about 60 to 70% of your body weight in ounces per day is a good idea. And if you're active, you may need to drink a little bit more. Avoid bad foods. Obviously, sugars, we already talked about. You know what bad foods are, guys. You know what they are. Just use common sense first. But what do I mean by bad fats? What I mean here is that there are certain fats that we don't even know are bad. So in general, you just want to avoid seed oils. So grapeseed oil, canola oil, things that are seed-based, get rid of them. There's emerging research on that and the problems with it, not only on mitochondrial health, but heart health in general. Guys, did you get a lot of that video? Please give me a thumbs up. Give me a comment below. Share the video. Come on now. Come on. You got to admit that you're liking what you're hearing. You got to admit it's important. So help me out. Share the info. All right, let's build the community. Love you all. Have a great day.